The wind cuts like razors across the ridge. May 26, 1943. Attu Island, Alaska. The most remote battlefield in World War II. Close up, a young man's hands shake as they grip the freezing steel of a Browning automatic rifle. His breath forms white clouds in the Arctic air, each exhale a reminder that he is still alive. Behind him, 50 men lie pressed against snow-covered rocks, pinned down by relentless machine gun fire that screams across the narrow pass. Ahead, 500 Japanese soldiers wait in snow trenches and foxholes carved into the mountainside, their rifles trained on the only path forward. The smell of cordite and blood mixes with the sharp scent of frozen earth. Artillery thunder echoes from somewhere beyond the ridgeline. Tracking shot, the camera drifts slowly across the faces of exhausted soldiers, eyes hollow from 2 weeks of brutal combat in conditions that have already killed more Americans from exposure than from enemy bullets. Private Joe Martinez, 22 years old, crouches behind a boulder that offers almost no protection. His company has been trying to take this pass for 3 days. 3 days of watching friends die. 3 days of gaining 20 feet only to be driven back by Japanese fire so intense it seems to come from every direction at once. The pass between Holtz Bay and Chichagof Harbor is the key to the entire battle. Whoever controls this frozen corridor controls the fate of Attu Island. And right now, the Japanese control it absolutely. Aerial shot, the camera rises slowly, revealing the impossible terrain, jagged peaks dusted white, narrow defile where men can barely walk single file, cliffs that drop away into fog and darkness. This is not a place where humans should fight wars. Yet here they are. Martinez looks down at his bar, then up at the mountain. Something shifts behind his dark eyes. A decision forming. A choice no one asked him to make. Over the shoulder shot, through his perspective, we see the rocky slopes ahead, tier after tier of enemy positions climbing toward a knife-edge ridge another 150 feet higher. His sergeant yells for everyone to stay down. Another burst of Japanese machine gun fire rips overhead, so close it sounds like fabric tearing. 2 more men scream as bullets find flesh. The medic cannot reach them. No one can reach them. The entire advance has collapsed into this frozen moment of absolute helplessness. Then Martinez stands up. Handheld POV, the camera jerks upward with sudden violent motion as he rises to his full height, exposed completely to enemy fire. His lips move. Is he praying? Cursing? Saying goodbye to someone far away? The sound of battle drowns out his words. Slow pan, every head turns toward him. 50 pairs of eyes widen in horror and disbelief as they watch this young private from Colorado step out from cover and begin walking uphill toward certain death. He does not run. He walks. Deliberate. Inevitable. The bar held ready across his chest. The Japanese machine guns swivel toward this lone figure climbing through the snow. For one impossible second, the entire mountain seems to hold its breath. Then everything explodes. But what drives a man to make such a choice? What can transform an ordinary soldier into something history will remember as a one-man army? The answer is not found in this frozen pass on May 26, 1943. The answer begins years earlier, in a place as far from war as anyone could imagine. And the secret that Martinez carries with him up that mountain, the real reason he stands when every instinct screams to stay down, will not be revealed until the final moments of this story, when the truth becomes more devastating than any bullet. Silence. The question hangs in the cold air, what happens when one man decides the mission matters more than his life? The next chapter will take us back to where it all began, to the boy who would become a hero, and to the forgotten campaign that historians still call the most brutal battle America ever fought on its own soil. Zoom out, from the frozen ridge of Attu, across thousands of miles of ocean and land, to northern New Mexico. July 27, 1920. The world is different then. The Great War has just ended. America is catching its breath. In the small town of Taos, nestled against the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, a baby boy is born to parents who speak both Spanish and English, who know both hardship and hope. They name him Joseph Pantaleon Martinez. Joe to his friends. The youngest of several children in a family where every day is work, where survival means everyone contributes, where dreams are luxuries but dignity is never negotiable. The camera lingers on sun-baked adobe walls, on dust rising from unpaved roads, on the faces of people who have called this land home for generations before there was a United States to belong to. Joe grows up in the Depression. Close up, small hands helping his father repair a wagon wheel. Small hands carrying water from a well. Small hands learning that nothing comes easy and nothing is wasted. The land around Taos is beautiful and unforgiving, high desert where the sun burns and the winters freeze, where the soil gives reluctantly and the sky stretches forever. It is terrain that teaches lessons. Endurance. Patience. The understanding that sometimes you must keep walking even when your body begs you to stop. These lessons will save Joe's life years later, or perhaps they will be what costs him his life. The line between survival and sacrifice is thinner than most people realize. By the time Joe reaches his teenage years, the world is sliding toward another war. Tracking shot, newspapers with headlines about Hitler, about Japan, about places most Americans cannot find on a map. Joe is not especially tall, not especially strong, but he has something else, a quiet determination that people notice. He does not talk much about his dreams, but those who know him say he wants to make something of himself, to prove that a Hispanic kid from a poor family in New Mexico can matter in a country that does not always see him as equal. There is a fire in him, banked but burning, waiting for something to fuel it into flame. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor explodes across the radio waves. America is at war. Slow pan across Joe's face as he listens to the news. He is 21 years old. He could wait to be drafted, could try to avoid service, could claim his family needs him at home. He does none of these things. Instead, he volunteers. His mother cries. His father shakes his hand with eyes that understand what this choice means but cannot speak it aloud. Over-the-shoulder shot, Joe walks away from his family home with a small bag over his shoulder, heading toward the recruitment office, heading toward boot camp, heading toward a frozen island he has never heard of where he will face a decision no training can prepare him for. The Army swallows him whole. Fort Ord, California. Company K, 32nd Infantry Regiment, 7th Infantry Division. Handheld POV, the camera jerks and sways through obstacle courses, rifle ranges, barracks filled with men from every corner of America. Joe is good with the bar, the Browning automatic rifle, a 19-pound weapon that fires .30-06 rounds at 550 rounds per minute, a weapon designed to lay down suppressive fire, to give infantrymen a chance against machine gun nests. The bar is heavy. It kicks like a mule. It jams in mud and dust. But in the right hands, it can change the course of a battle. Joe's hands are the right hands. His instructors notice. He is quiet, focused, the kind of soldier who does not need to be told twice, who absorbs lessons and applies them without fanfare. But something happens during training, something the official records do not mention. Close up, Joe sits alone one evening, writing a letter home. His pen stops. His eyes go distant. What is he thinking? What memory haunts him? There are whispers among his fellow soldiers, whispers about a brother, about something that happened back home, about guilt that Joe carries like a stone in his chest, memory, user requested deep emotional backstory. The camera cannot see inside his heart, but it can see the way his jaw tightens, the way his hands clench into fists when he thinks no one is watching. Whatever drives Joe Martinez is more than patriotism, more than duty. It is personal. It is unfinished. And it will not reveal itself fully until the moment when he stands up on that frozen ridge and begins to walk. The 7th Infantry Division is preparing for North Africa. Desert training. Heat and sand. Then, abruptly, everything changes. Aerial shot, the camera drifts over snow-capped mountains as the division is suddenly rerouted north. Not to Africa. To Alaska. To the Aleutian Islands, a chain of volcanic rocks stretching across the North Pacific like a broken bridge between America and Asia. The men are confused. They trained for heat. Now they will fight in cold that can kill a man in minutes if he is not prepared. Amphibious assault training begins. Landing craft. Beach landings. Vertical scaling of cliffs. The kind of training that tells soldiers they are heading somewhere terrible. Joe writes another letter home. Tracking shot, his words on paper, simple and honest. He tells his mother he is well. He tells his father he will make them proud. He does not tell them he is afraid, though he is. He does not tell them about the nightmares, about the feeling that something is waiting for him at the end of this journey, something inevitable, memory, user emphasis on foreshadowing. He folds the letter carefully, seals it, hands it to the mail clerk. Will his parents ever read it? Will he come home to see their faces again? The camera lingers on the envelope as it is placed in a bag with hundreds of others, letters from men who are still alive writing to people they love, not knowing that some of these letters will become final words. But the real question remains unanswered. What secret does Joe Martinez carry? What happened in Taos that turned a quiet boy into a man willing to die for soldiers he barely knows? And why, when the moment comes on Attu Island, will he choose to stand when every rational thought screams for him to stay down? The answer is buried deep, hidden beneath layers of pride and pain, and it will only surface when there is nothing left to lose. Silence. The next chapter will take us north, into the frozen hell of the Aleutian Islands, where America is fighting a campaign so remote and brutal that history will nearly forget it ever happened. And where Joe Martinez will begin his final journey toward the past that bears his name. Wide aerial shot, the Aleutian Islands stretch across the North Pacific like the spine of some ancient drowned creature. May 1943. These islands are American territory, but they feel like the edge of the world, volcanic peaks shrouded in constant fog, wind that never stops howling, seas so cold they kill in minutes. The Japanese invaded these islands a year ago, in June 1942, seizing Attu and Kiska in a move that shocked the American public. For the first time since the War of 1812, foreign soldiers occupy American soil. It is a wound to national pride, a strategic threat, and a nightmare to recapture. The Aleutians are not jungle islands like Guadalcanal. They are frozen fortresses where the weather is as deadly as any enemy. Close up, inside the Pentagon, military planners study maps. The situation is complex. Japan holds Attu and Kiska as forward bases, extending their defensive perimeter thousands of miles eastward. If American bombers ever reached the Japanese home islands from Alaska, these bases could intercept them. But more than strategy, this is about symbolism. American soil must be reclaimed. The public demands it. The politicians demand it. And so, Operation Land Crab is born, the codename for the assault on Attu Island. It will be the only land battle of World War II fought on incorporated American territory. It will also be one of the bloodiest. Tracking shot, convoy of ships cutting through gray Pacific waves. May 11, 1943. 15,000 American soldiers approach Attu aboard transports and landing craft. Joe Martinez is among them, crammed below decks with Company K, 32nd Infantry, surrounded by the smell of diesel fuel and vomit and fear. The seas are rough. Men who have never been on a ship before empty their stomachs into buckets. The closer they get to Attu, the colder the air becomes. Handheld POV, Joe checks his bar for the 100th time, running his fingers over every moving part, making sure it is clean and oiled. This weapon is now an extension of his body. He knows its weight, its balance, its tendency to pull left when fired on full automatic. He has fired thousands of rounds in training. Now he will fire them for real. Above deck, officers peer through binoculars at an island emerging from the fog. Attu is larger than expected but just as barren, no trees, just tundra and rock and snow. Intelligence reports estimate about 2,500 Japanese soldiers on the island, dug into positions that have been reinforced for nearly a year. The Japanese commander, Colonel Yasuyo Yamasaki, is a veteran who knows these Americans are coming and has prepared a defense in depth, layered positions, interlocking fields of fire, trenches carved into frozen earth that are nearly invisible from the air. He has orders to hold Attu at all costs. He has no intention of surrendering. His soldiers share that determination. They have been told that capture means dishonor worse than death. So they will fight until none remain. The landing plan targets two beaches, Massacre Bay in the south and Holtz Bay in the north. The 7th Infantry Division will land in a pincer movement, trying to trap the Japanese between converging forces. Slow pan across the faces of soldiers as they prepare to load into landing craft. Some pray. Some joke to hide their terror. Some stare at nothing, already seeing their own deaths. Joe is silent. He checks his grenades, counts his ammunition, tightens the straps on his pack. Over the shoulder shot, through his eyes, we see other men doing the same mechanical rituals that keep fear at bay. But fear is still there, coiled in every chest, waiting to strike. The order comes. Assault wave, man your boats. The words cut through the metallic noise of preparation. Handheld POV, the camera jerks and stumbles as men climb down cargo nets into pitching landing craft. The boats are small, vulnerable, packed so tight that men stand shoulder to shoulder. Joe finds himself pressed against strangers who will soon be brothers or corpses or both. The engines roar. The boats pull away from the transport ships and begin the run toward shore. Aerial shot, dozens of landing craft cutting white wakes through dark water, heading toward an island wrapped in fog. They look like toys. They look doomed. Then the fog becomes their salvation. The Japanese cannot see them coming. The thick blanket of white conceals the assault force until the boats are nearly on the beach. Enemy artillery that should be shredding these landing craft is silent, confused, blind. The Americans hit the beaches at Holtz Bay without the expected wall of fire. Close up, boots splashing into icy water. Men stumbling forward through surf that soaks them to the bone. Joe wades ashore with his bar held high, keeping it dry, his legs already numb from the cold. The beach is rocky, steep, a bluff that must be climbed immediately. No time to consolidate. No time to think. Just climb. And then the fog lifts. Tracking shot, as visibility improves, the true horror of Attu's terrain reveals itself. The mountains are everywhere, jagged and hostile, climbing straight up from the beaches into clouds. Between those peaks are narrow passes, the only ways inland, and the Japanese hold every one of them. What should have been a quick advance becomes a grinding slog. Every 100 yards costs lives. Every ridge hides machine gun nests. The Americans have numerical superiority, better equipment, naval and air support when the weather allows. But the Japanese have terrain, determination, and the home field advantage of defenders who have prepared for this moment. The first days are chaos. Company K fights its way inland from Holtz Bay, moving toward the high ground between the two arms of the bay. It is not like training. It is not like anything. Close up, mud and snow mixed with blood. Wounded men screaming for medics who cannot reach them because the ground offers no cover. Joe fires his bar in short controlled bursts, just like training, but the enemy fire coming back is insane, relentless, coming from positions so well camouflaged they are invisible until they open fire. Men drop around him. Friends whose names he barely learned. He keeps moving because stopping means dying. At night, the temperature plummets. Slow pan across soldiers huddled in shallow foxholes, too terrified to sleep because the Japanese launch infiltration attacks in the darkness, slipping between American positions with knives and grenades. Joe lies awake, staring at stars that appear when the clouds briefly part. He thinks about home. He thinks about the letter he wrote. He thinks about the thing he has never told anyone, the reason he volunteered, the debt he believes he owes. Over-the-shoulder shot, the silhouettes of mountains against the night sky, black shapes against deep blue, beautiful and merciless. By May 14, 3 days after landing, the battle has become a stalemate. American forces are ashore and pushing inland, but every gain is measured in yards and paid for in blood. The Japanese refuse to yield. They counterattack at night. They fight from caves and trenches that American artillery cannot destroy. And between Holtz Bay and Chichagof Harbor, a single mountain pass has become the focal point of the entire northern thrust. Whoever controls that pass controls the route to the main Japanese positions. And the Japanese are determined that no American will take it alive. But Joe Martinez does not yet know that this pass will be his destiny. He does not know that historians will call it Martinez Hill, or that his name will be carved into Medal of Honor citations. He only knows that his company is being ordered forward again, toward high ground that seems to breathe machine gun fire. Handheld POV, the camera jerks upward as Joe slings his bar and begins to climb. His breath comes in ragged clouds. His fingers are numb. Somewhere ahead, the enemy waits. And somewhere deeper inside himself, the reason for everything he is about to do waits too, coiled like a spring ready to release. Silence. What turns a man into a weapon against impossible odds? The next chapter will reveal the days leading up to May 26, the failed assaults, the mounting casualties, and the growing certainty among Joe's comrades that this pass cannot be taken. But one man will refuse to accept that certainty. And his refusal will change everything. Close up, a soldier's hands shaking as he tries to light a cigarette in the wind. May 20, 1943. 9 days into the battle for Attu. The American advance has stalled completely at the base of the pass between Holtz Bay and Chichagof Harbor. Company K has been trying to take this position for nearly a week. Every attempt ends the same way, withering machine gun fire from foxholes and trenches dug into the rocky slopes, fire so accurate and sustained that men cannot move 10 feet without being cut down. The pass is maybe 300 yards long, climbing 150 feet in elevation to a knife-edge ridge at the top. 300 yards. In training, men could sprint that distance in under a minute. Here, it might as well be 300 miles. Aerial shot, the camera drifts slowly over the terrain, revealing why this position is so deadly. The pass is a narrow defile, flanked by steep rocky ridges on both sides. The Japanese have positions on those flanks, creating a killing zone where fire comes from 3 directions at once. Worse, they have dug tiers of snow trenches in front of the pass itself, each tier covering the one behind it, each position reinforced with logs and frozen earth that shrugs off rifle fire. To take this pass, the Americans must attack uphill with no cover, in full view of defenders who have every advantage. It is a military planner's nightmare. It is a soldier's vision of hell. But orders are orders. Company K attacks again on May 21. Handheld POV, the camera surges forward as men leave their positions and charge up the slope. Joe is in the middle of the assault wave, his bar chattering in controlled bursts, trying to suppress enemy fire long enough for riflemen to advance. It does not work. The Japanese machine guns are everywhere, hidden in spider holes and snow trenches that are invisible until they open fire. Bullets snap past Joe's head with sounds like angry insects. Men scream. The line breaks. The survivors scramble back down the hill, dragging wounded, leaving dead. Close up, Joe collapses behind a boulder, gasping for air, his hands cramping from gripping the bar too tight. He has fired 2 magazines, maybe more. He does not remember. His ears ring from explosions. Blood spots his uniform, but he cannot tell if it is his or someone else's. The attacks continue day after day. May 22nd. May 23rd. May 24th. Each assault gains a few yards, costs a dozen men, then collapses under enemy fire. Slow pan across the faces of Company K. They are no longer the soldiers who landed on May 11th. Their eyes are hollow. Their movements are mechanical. They have seen too much death, endured too much cold, lost too many friends. Some men are openly weeping with exhaustion and despair. Others stare at nothing, broken inside. The medics do what they can, but they are overwhelmed. And the Japanese keep fighting with a ferocity that seems inhuman, firing until their guns run dry, then fighting with bayonets and entrenching tools and bare hands when the Americans get close enough. Joe watches this disintegration and feels something hardening inside him. Over the shoulder shot, he sits alone during a brief lull in the fighting, cleaning his bar with methodical precision. His hands do not shake anymore. His face shows nothing. Other soldiers avoid him, sensing something dangerous coiling inside this quiet man from New Mexico. What are they seeing? What is Joe becoming? Tracking shot, the camera follows him as he moves through the company position, checking ammunition, helping dig foxholes, volunteering for every dangerous task. He is not trying to be brave. He is preparing. For what, he does not yet know. But it is coming. He can feel it. May 25th. The day before everything changes. The company commander calls for another assault at dawn. The men receive the order with dead silence. No one believes it will work. They have tried this too many times. The Japanese positions are too strong. But retreat is not an option. The entire northern advance depends on taking this pass. If Company K fails, the battle for Attu might be lost. Handheld POV, Joe lies in his foxhole that night, unable to sleep. The temperature drops below freezing. His breath frosts the inside of his collar. Above him, stars will slowly across a black sky. Somewhere in the darkness, a wounded man cries out, then falls silent. The sound echoes in Joe's memory long after it stops. Close up, Joe's face in the pre-dawn darkness. His eyes are open. He is remembering something. A flashback, brief and shattering, a face he loved, a brother perhaps, someone who died because Joe was not there, was not fast enough, was not brave enough. Memory, user requested deep emotional backstory with guilt. The memory is a knife in his chest. It has been there for years, twisting. He thought he could outrun it by joining the army, by fighting for something larger than himself. But it has followed him here, to the frozen edge of the world, to this impossible past that no one can take. And suddenly, with the clarity of revelation, Joe understands. This is why he is here. Not to survive. Not to go home. But to pay a debt. To prove that when it matters most, he will not fail again. Dawn breaks gray and cold on May 26, 1943. Slow pan across Company K as they prepare for another assault. They check weapons with hands that fumble from exhaustion. They swallow cold rations that taste like dust. They say nothing because there is nothing left to say. Joe stands among them, his bar loaded and ready, 20 pounds of steel and wood that has become an extension of his will. Aerial shot, the camera rises slowly, revealing the pass above them, tiers of Japanese positions climbing toward that knife-edge ridge, positions that have broken every attack for 6 days straight. It looks impossible because it is impossible. The order comes. Company K moves out, beginning another uphill assault that everyone believes will end like all the others. Tracking shot, the camera follows the line of soldiers as they climb, spread out, trying to make themselves difficult targets. The Japanese wait until the Americans are fully committed, fully exposed, then open fire. Machine guns. Rifles. Grenades lob down from above. The sound is apocalyptic. Men go down immediately, cut down before they can take more than a few steps. The advance falters. Handheld POV, soldiers dive behind rocks, into shallow depressions, anywhere that offers even minimal cover. They are pinned. Again. Just like yesterday. Just like every day. Joe is behind his boulder, the same one he has hidden behind a dozen times before. Close up, his face is calm now. The fear has burned away, leaving only purpose. He looks at his bar, then at the mountain, then at his hands. Over the shoulder shot, through his eyes, we see the impossible distance to the enemy positions, see the tracers cutting through the air, see men dying within arm's reach. His sergeant is screaming for everyone to stay down. 2 more soldiers are hit, their screams tearing through the chaos. No one can help them. No one can advance. This is the end of the road. This is where Company K breaks. Then Joe stands up. Slow motion, the camera captures the moment in excruciating detail. His legs straighten. His body rises into full view of every Japanese machine gun on the mountain. Time seems to stretch. Other soldiers turn toward him, mouths opening in shouts of warning and horror. But Joe does not hear them. He is already moving forward, already beginning the walk that will take him into legend or oblivion or both. Silence. The question burns, what makes a man choose certain death over uncertain survival? What equation balances one life against a mission, a company, a battle, a war? And will Joe Martinez's sacrifice be enough, or will he die for nothing on this frozen slope where no one will remember? The next chapter will follow him up the mountain, into the teeth of enemy fire, toward a fate that seems written in ice and blood. Close up, Joe Martinez's boots moving through snow, one step at a time, climbing uphill toward the Japanese positions. The sound design shifts, background noise fades, the chaos of battle becomes muffled, distant, as if we are now inside Joe's head where everything is eerily calm. His breathing is steady. His hands grip the bar with certainty. Tracking shot, the camera follows from behind, watching his shoulders, the way he moves with deliberate purpose, not rushing, not hesitating, just walking forward as if he is taking a stroll instead of advancing into a storm of bullets. Behind him, 50 men watch in frozen disbelief. Some think he has lost his mind. Others sense they are witnessing something extraordinary. The Japanese machine guns swivel toward this lone figure. Multiple positions open fire simultaneously. Bullets tear through the air around Joe, kicking up geysers of snow and rock chips. He does not flinch. Handheld POV, the camera jerks and bounces, showing his perspective as he moves, enemy muzzle flashes winking from foxholes ahead, the rocky slope under his feet, the bar swinging up into firing position. He stops, braces, and fires a burst directly into the nearest Japanese position. The sound is deafening even in his muted bubble of focus. 3-round burst. 5-round burst. Short controlled fire to conserve ammunition, just like training taught him. But this is not training. A Japanese soldier rises from a foxhole 20 yards ahead, rifle aimed at Joe's chest. Close up, the enemy soldier's face, young, terrified, determined. For one frozen instant, 2 young men stare at each other across a distance measured in heartbeats. Then Joe's bar barks again. The Japanese soldier falls. Joe keeps walking. Over the shoulder shot, his perspective shows 2 more foxholes ahead, muzzle flashes intensifying, tracers reaching for him like fingers of light. He is in the open, completely exposed, the most obvious target on the entire mountain. Yet somehow the bullets miss. Or perhaps they do not miss, and we simply cannot see where they strike because Joe refuses to acknowledge them. Behind him, something shifts. Aerial shot, the frozen paralysis of Company K begins to break. One soldier, then another, rises from cover. If this crazy bastard can walk up that hill, maybe they can follow. Tracking shot, men who moments ago were pinned and helpless now start moving forward again, using Joe as a shield, using his insane courage as cover more effective than any rock. They do not understand what is happening. They only know they cannot let him climb alone. The sergeants and officers, shocked out of their own paralysis, begin coordinating fire. Rifles crack. Other bars open up, suppressing Japanese positions while Joe advances. Joe reaches the first tier of enemy trenches. Handheld POV, the camera shows his perspective as he pulls a grenade from his belt, yanks the pin with his teeth, a move the army manual says never to do but every soldier does anyway, and hurls it into a snow trench 10 feet ahead. The explosion is a crump of sound and pressure. Dirt and snow fountain upward. Before the debris settles, Joe is moving again, firing his bar into the trench as he passes, making sure nothing inside can threaten him or the men following. Close up, empty brass casings tumble through the air in slow motion, catching sunlight, falling like golden rain. His magazine runs dry. He drops it, slams in a fresh one, never breaking stride. 20-round magazines. He started with 10. How many has he burned through? 3. 4. He has stopped counting. The Japanese defenders are in shock. Their intelligence told them Americans were cautious, methodical, dependent on overwhelming firepower. This lone soldier walking through their kill zone defies everything they know about how the enemy fights. Some Japanese soldiers hold their fire, certain this is a diversion, that the real attack will come from another direction. Others fire frantically, unable to believe they are missing at ranges where they should not miss. Slow pan, from Japanese positions looking down at Joe climbing, the camera captures the impossible sight, one man against entrenched positions that have held for 6 days, and the man is winning. Joe clears the second tier of trenches. Another grenade. Another burst of bar fire. He is halfway up the pass now, halfway to the knife-edge ridge at the top. His legs burn from the climb. His hands are numb from cold and the constant vibration of the bar firing. Sweat freezes on his face despite the exertion. Over the shoulder shot, looking back down the slope, we see Company K is now fully advancing, using the path Joe has cleared, pouring fire into Japanese positions that have lost their interlocking fields of fire because the lowest tier has been neutralized. The pass is breaking. The impossible is becoming possible. Because one man decided to stand up, but the Japanese are not finished. The main positions near the ridge, the strongest, most heavily defended emplacements, remain intact. Close up, a Japanese machine gun crew repositioning their weapon, swiveling to target Joe who is now dangerously close. The gunner settles behind his Type 92 heavy machine gun, a weapon that fires 450 rounds per minute and has already killed dozens of Americans this week. He centers Joe in his sights. His finger tightens on the trigger. Handheld POV from Joe's perspective, he sees the machine gun nest, sees the barrel swinging toward him, knows in that instant that his luck has run out. He charges. Tracking shot, the camera runs with Joe as he sprints the last 30 yards uphill, his bar hammering on full automatic now, discipline abandoned, just pure suppressive fire to keep that machine gun from acquiring him. The sound is immense. The bar shreds through its magazine in seconds. Joe does not stop to reload. He drops the empty weapon, draws his sidearm, a .45 caliber M1911 pistol, and keeps running. The Japanese machine gun fires. Bullets crack past his head, so close he feels their passage. One tears through his sleeve without touching skin. Another kicks up snow at his feet. But Joe is moving too fast, zigzagging instinctively, making himself a harder target. He reaches the machine gun nest and fires 3 shots point-blank into the crew. The gun goes silent. Close up, Joe collapses against the sandbags of the captured position, gasping for air. His hands shake now. The calm focus that carried him up the mountain is cracking. He looks back down the slope and sees Company K surging forward, sees the pass is nearly won, sees men who were pinned and helpless now advancing because he showed them it could be done. For one brief moment, something like satisfaction crosses his face. He did it. He paid the debt. Whatever guilt drove him to this frozen island, whatever brother or friend he failed in the past, he has balanced the scales. He can go home now. If he survives the next few minutes. But those minutes are not kind. Slow pan across the ridgeline above. The main pass still rises another 150 feet to the knife-edge summit where the heaviest Japanese positions wait. The battle is not over. The hardest part remains. And Joe Martinez, who has already done the impossible, will be asked to do it again. Handheld POV, he retrieves his bar, reloads with fingers that barely obey him, and looks up at the final climb. Other soldiers are reaching his position now, eyes wild with adrenaline and disbelief. They are slapping his back, shouting words he cannot hear over the ringing in his ears. An officer is yelling orders, pointing toward the ridgeline. The assault must continue. There is no time to rest. Joe begins climbing again. Tracking shot, the camera follows him upward, but something has changed. His movements are slower now. Exhaustion is winning its war against willpower. The slope is steeper here, the footing treacherous with ice and loose rock. Ahead, the final tier of Japanese defenses waits, snow trenches and foxholes positioned to cover every approach. The defenders there have seen what happened below. They will not be surprised again. They are ready. And they are afraid, because fear makes men dangerous in different ways, makes them desperate, makes them accurate. Joe reaches a small rocky outcrop just below the ridgeline. He takes cover, breathing in ragged gasps, checking his ammunition. 2 magazines left. Maybe 40 rounds. Not enough. Never enough. Over the shoulder shot, he peers around the outcrop and sees the final obstacle, a trench system carved into the snow, 15 feet below the ridge summit, manned by Japanese soldiers firing with disciplined precision. They have the high ground. They have cover. They have desperation. Joe has a nearly empty bar and a decision to make. He can wait for the rest of Company K to come up, consolidate, coordinate a proper assault. That is the tactical choice. That is the smart choice. But Joe Martinez is not thinking tactically anymore. Close up, his face shows a kind of peace, the serenity of a man who has already made his final choice and is now just seeing it through. He stands again, rising into full view, and begins walking toward the trenches. No one orders him to do this. No one expects it. He simply does it because it is who he has become in this moment, a weapon aimed at the heart of enemy resistance, a man who has transcended fear and pain and reason. Silence. The question whispers, how much can one person give before there is nothing left to give? And what happens when that moment arrives? The next chapter will answer, in blood and silence and the terrible finality of fate. Slow motion, Joe Martinez rises from cover for the final time. The camera captures every detail in excruciating clarity, the way his uniform hangs on his frame, filthy with mud and blood, the set of his shoulders as he lifts the bar, the cold white puffs of breath escaping his mouth. Around him, the battle continues its chaotic symphony, but in this moment, the focus narrows to one man and the decision he has made. Behind him, soldiers shout warnings. An officer yells for him to get down. Joe does not hear them, or perhaps he hears and chooses to ignore. Tracking shot, he begins walking toward the final Japanese trench, 20 feet away, 15 feet, 10 feet. His bar is at his shoulder, barrel trained on the enemy position ahead. The Japanese soldiers in that trench see him coming. Close up, through their perspective, this American is a figure from a nightmare, a man who should be dead a dozen times over, who has destroyed half their defensive line single-handedly, who is now approaching with the inexorable patience of death itself. One Japanese soldier, barely 20 years old, brings his rifle to bear. His hands shake. He has been trained his entire military life for this moment. He fires. The sound is sharp, distinct, cutting through all other noise. Time seems to freeze. Handheld POV from Joe's perspective, the world jerks violently. The sky tilts. His legs buckle. The bar slips from hands that suddenly cannot hold it. He does not understand at first. There is no pain, just a spreading numbness and a strange sensation of falling even though he thinks he is still standing. Close up, his face shows confusion, then understanding, then acceptance. He has been hit. The bullet struck him in the head, above the left temple, and he knows with absolute clarity that this wound is mortal. He is dying. Right here. Right now. On this frozen ridge 20 feet from the trench he was trying to clear. But Joe Martinez does not fall. Not yet. Tracking shot, impossibly, he remains on his feet. Blood streams down his face, hot against his cold skin, but some core of will refuses to let him collapse. He stumbles forward, 1 step, 2 steps, driven by momentum and something deeper than conscious thought. His vision is blurring. His ears ring with a sound like distant bells. He knows he is dying, but his body has not received the message yet, or perhaps it has but chooses to obey one final command. Get to the trench. Finish the job. Do not fail. Other American soldiers surge forward, seeing Joe wounded, trying to reach him. Aerial shot, the camera rises, showing the chaotic scene, Joe stumbling toward the Japanese position, blood marking his path in dark drops on white snow, Company K rushing to support him, the Japanese defenders in the trench frozen in horror at this apparition that will not die. The moment stretches, elastic with tension, everyone moving but seemingly trapped in amber, knowing they are witnessing something that will be remembered or forgotten depending on what happens in the next 3 seconds. Joe reaches the edge of the trench. Close up, his hand, covered in blood, pulls a grenade from his belt. His fingers fumble with the pin. He cannot see clearly anymore. The world is gray at the edges, darkening, collapsing into a tunnel of vision that narrows with every heartbeat. But he gets the pin out. He drops the grenade into the trench. Over the shoulder shot from behind him, the grenade tumbles end over end into the enemy position. The Japanese soldiers scatter. The explosion follows instantly, a bloom of fire and smoke that lifts snow and dirt and screaming men into the air. Then Joe Martinez falls. Slow motion, his body collapses forward, over the edge of the trench he has just destroyed, falling into the snow and frozen mud that has drunk so much blood this week. Handheld POV, the camera lies on the ground with him, showing his perspective as he lies on his side, looking back down the pass he climbed. He can see Company K advancing now, see them pouring through the positions he cleared, see the pass is taken, see that his sacrifice was not in vain. His lips move. Is he praying? Calling for his mother? Saying goodbye to the brother he failed and has now redeemed? No one will ever know. The words are lost in the wind and the battle noise and the silence that is spreading through Joe's mind like darkness. Medics reach him within seconds. Close up, hands rolling him onto his back, pressing gauze against the head wound that is still bleeding though the heart beneath is slowing. An army doctor checks his pulse, looks at his eyes, and knows there is nothing to be done. The bullet entered his brain. He is alive only because the human body sometimes takes minutes to understand it is dead. Tracking shot, the medics lift Joe onto a stretcher, moving quickly down the slope toward a aid station, but it is a gesture without hope. They know. Joe knows. Everyone knows. Silence. The only question now is how long he will linger. Joe Martinez dies on May 27, 1943. 1 day after he was shot. 1 day of unconsciousness, of labored breathing, of brain damage that makes recovery impossible. He never wakes. He never says final words. He never knows that Company K took the pass, that the battle for Attu is effectively won, that historians will credit his charge with breaking the Japanese defense. He dies in a medical tent with strangers around him, far from home, far from the family he wanted to make proud. He is 22 years old. He has been a soldier for less than 2 years. And he is now something more than a soldier. He is a symbol of courage that defies rational explanation. The pass is renamed in his honor. Martinez Hill, the official maps will call it, though most soldiers just call it, the place where that crazy Mexican kid won the war for us. The battle for Attu continues for 3 more days after Joe's death. On May 29, the remaining Japanese soldiers launch a massive banzai charge near Massacre Bay, penetrating deep into American lines before being annihilated in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Of 2,500 Japanese defenders, only 28 are captured alive. The rest die fighting or by their own hands to avoid surrender. The American casualties are staggering: 549 killed, over 1,200 wounded, and more than 1,500 evacuated for cold weather injuries, frostbite, trench foot, exposure. For every square mile of frozen rock on Attu, nearly 4 American soldiers died or were maimed. But the pass, Joe's Pass, was the key. Slow pan across military maps showing the terrain. Without Martinez's charge, Company K would have remained pinned, the northern advance would have stalled, the Japanese could have concentrated their defense in the south, and the battle might have dragged on for weeks with thousands more casualties. One man changed the equation. One man decided that his life was worth less than the mission. And the mission succeeded because he made that choice. Months later, on October 27, 1943, Joe's family receives news. A telegram first, informing them of his death, then a letter from his commanding officer describing his heroism in terms that sound impossible. His mother cries. His father stands silent, staring at the telegram with eyes that see beyond the paper to some distant ridge where his son walked into immortality. And then, another letter. This one is official, embossed, heavy with formality. Private Joe P. Martinez is to be awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously, the highest military decoration the United States can bestow. He is the first Hispanic American to receive the Medal of Honor during World War II. He is the first Medal of Honor awarded for combat on American soil in that war. His name will be remembered. But will it? Aerial shot, the camera drifts across modern Attu Island, deserted now, no humans remaining, just wind and rock and the ghosts of men who fought there. The Battle of Attu is called the Forgotten Battle, because it happened so far from other theaters, because it was overshadowed by campaigns in Europe and the Pacific, because America wanted to forget that foreign soldiers once occupied its soil. Few people today know Attu exists. Fewer know what happened there. And Joe Martinez, who should be as famous as Audie Murphy or Alvin York, is largely unknown outside military history circles. His sacrifice, like the island itself, has been buried under time and silence. Close up, a medal in a glass case, the distinctive blue ribbon and gold star of the Medal of Honor. This medal was awarded for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. But medals do not explain what drove Joe to stand when everyone else stayed down. They do not reveal the secret he carried, the guilt that propelled him up that mountain. And they do not answer the question that haunts this story: was Joe Martinez a hero, or was he a man so broken by something in his past that he sought death on a battlefield and found immortality instead? Silence. The next chapter will reach back into Joe's past, into the shadows before the war, to find the truth that even the Medal of Honor citation cannot speak. Fade to black. Then, slowly, fade up on Taos, New Mexico, 1938. 5 years before Attu. 5 years before Joe Martinez will walk up a frozen mountain into legend. The town is small, dusty, poor but proud. Close up, a young Joe, 18 years old, sitting on the porch of his family's modest home, whittling a piece of wood with a knife his father gave him. His hands are steady. His face shows the same quiet intensity that will later define him as a soldier. But his eyes, tracking shot focuses on his eyes, carry a shadow, a darkness that seems too heavy for someone so young. Inside the house, voices argue in Spanish. Joe's father and mother, discussing money, work, survival, the grinding realities of Depression-era New Mexico where opportunities are scarce and prejudice is common. Joe listens but does not enter. He has learned that some problems cannot be solved by a son, that some burdens are his parents alone to carry. Over the shoulder shot, through the window, we see his mother's tired face, his father's calloused hands. They are good people worn down by circumstance, holding together a family through sheer will. Joe loves them. And he feels he is failing them just by existing, just by being another mouth to feed when work is hard to find. But there is another shadow, deeper and more personal: memory, user-requested emotional backstory with guilt. Slow pan across a faded photograph on the porch railing, Two boys, maybe 10 and 12 years old, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. Joe and his older brother, Miguel. Handheld POV, Joe picks up the photograph, stares at it with eyes that threaten to betray emotion. Miguel, who taught Joe to fish, to ride horses, to stand up for himself when other boys called him names for being Mexican in a place where that meant second class. Miguel, who was everything Joe wanted to be, strong, confident, unafraid. Miguel is dead, memory, user emphasis on guilt as motivating factor. Flashback, grainy and painful, a summer day 2 years ago, 1936. Joe is 16, Miguel is 18. They are at the river, swimming, laughing, enjoying a rare day off from work. Close-up, Miguel dives from a rock into the water. The splash. The laughter. Then, silence. Tracking shot, Joe treading water, calling his brother's name. No answer. Growing panic. He dives under, searching, but the river is murky, visibility is zero. He surfaces, gasps for air, dives again. And again. And again. Until other men arrive and pull him from the water, exhausted, hysterical, while they search for Miguel with hooks and poles. They find Miguel's body the next morning, downstream, caught in roots, memory, user requested deep trauma. He had struck his head on a submerged rock, knocked unconscious, drowned in water that should have been safe. Close-up, Joe's face as the sheriff delivers the news. Something breaks behind his eyes. His mother screams. His father stands frozen. But Joe does not cry. He just stares at nothing, already blaming himself, already constructing the narrative that will haunt him for the rest of his short life. I should have found him. I should have searched harder. I should have saved him. I failed. I am a coward. I let my brother die. The family never says this. Slow pan across the funeral, the mourners, the priest speaking words that Joe does not hear. His parents never blame him. His siblings never accuse him. But Joe blames himself. And that blame becomes a poison in his soul, a weight that grows heavier with each passing month. Over the shoulder shot, Joe at Miguel's grave, months after the funeral, speaking to a headstone that cannot answer. I'm sorry, he whispers. I should have saved you. I should have been braver. I'll make it right. Somehow. I promise. It is a promise he cannot keep. Unless he finds a way to prove he is not a coward. Unless he finds a moment where courage can redeem failure. The war offers that moment. December 1941. Pearl Harbor. Joe hears the news and sees, with terrible clarity, his chance for redemption. Handheld POV, he walks to the recruitment office without telling his parents, volunteers without hesitation, signs papers with hands that do not shake because he has already made peace with what this means. He is not joining the army to defeat Japan or defend democracy. He is joining to find a place where he can prove he is not the coward who let Miguel drown. He is joining to die bravely, if necessary, to balance the scales. Tracking shot, he walks home in his new uniform, and his mother cries not because she is proud, though she is, but because she sees something in his eyes that terrifies her. She knows, with a mother's instinct, that her son is saying goodbye. Fast forward to Attu, May 26, 1943. Close-up, Joe behind the boulder, pinned by Japanese machine gun fire, moments before he stands. Now we understand what is happening inside his head. He is not thinking about tactics. He is not thinking about Company K or the battle or the war. He is thinking about Miguel. He is hearing his brother's voice, or perhaps it is his own voice disguised as Miguel's, saying, "Be brave. Do what you couldn't do for me. Don't fail this time." And so Joe stands, not because he is fearless, but because he has been carrying fear and guilt for 7 years, and this frozen mountain is where he finally sets them down. Slow pan across the pass as Joe begins his charge. Now his actions make terrible, tragic sense. He is not trying to survive. He is trying to die in a way that has meaning, a death that proves he is capable of courage, a death that will tell Miguel's ghost and his own tortured conscience that he is not a coward. Every step up that mountain is an apology to his brother. Every burst of the bar is penance for the boy he could not save from drowning. And when the bullet finally finds